on the Greyhound to Chicago. I've got all my bags packed up, ready to leave.
Ah,
that was the best intro yet.
that was nice.
I'll take that. Right, good evening and welcome to the Long Run live streaming podcast brought to you by FORDY Runs. Firstly, thank you to our sponsors at Skechers. Everyone should head over to skechers.co.uk to check out all of their latest gear. Trainers, clothes, a lot, they've got everything. You can also get 10% off at Start Fitness using the code 40RUNS. So people are always commenting saying they've been using that, which is great. Tonight, I'm joined by Hayden, Ben and Chris. And we're going to be talking about all sorts because it was a busy weekend last week, and the next few weekends coming are looking exciting too. So, how are we all doing? Hayden, how are you doing?
Yeah, really good, really good. As you said, busy weekend last weekend, but no, real good. Just looking forward to obviously the weekend upcoming, the big one out into Chicago. So, yeah. All really good.
Good. And I went to you first because these two were obviously. Well, firstly, one of them is still messing around in the top corner, if anyone can't tell. And before I get to them, if you are commenting on Facebook, please click on the link that Chris has put in there so that we can see your name. And if not, just please put your name so we know who we're talking to. Keep all the comments coming because we will get to questions as we go. We can see loads of you already, which is exciting. Chris, Ben, Berlin last weekend. How was it? Go on, Ben.
It was amazing. I think for me, London obviously was my first marathon, and I think you focus a lot on the distance, and I loved London, but Berlin was on another level. I don't know whether that was because I was running with him for just over 4 hours, but we had a great time.
You've been paid to say that, so I'm just gonna go to Chris because I can't believe anyone would say that out of choice.
What? Evening, everyone. I'm back. Firstly, if you're watching this live, we want to hear from you in the chat comment section. Load us up. We want to know what you're up to, what you're doing. Forget what the title says, because tonight we're just going to talk about anything. It's going to be one of those, right, where we do the complete opposite to what the title says. We might even come back and do that another day, because I think this week is all about catching up. I haven't seen everybody for a while, obviously, apart from Ben. We'll come on to that in a minute. But we've got a big week coming up. We've got massive things in the club to talk about. We've got loads of things going on all over the place. So this week's one of those episodes where we're just going to catch up and talk nonsense. You may absolutely hate this episode. You may be looking for some value. So I would recommend strongly that you wait a little bit, because there'll be an advert that kicks in a minute, and we thank very much. And then turn off. Or you can take us for your run and join in the fun and banter as we always go through. So, yes, welcome, everybody. I've got a big shout out to the start, at the start, please, if possible.
Yeah, go on.
I've got a couple. I've got to give a shout out to the guys at Skechers because they were kind enough to take us to Berlin and do that. And obviously, we did the big shakeout run. So I've got to give them some mad love, because obviously I'm a bit of an idiot and I get up to no good. So I appreciate that they support that. Big news is we're going back to the National Running Show as well in 2024. We're going to be there. We'll be on stage. We'll be smashing the life out of that. So make sure you get your tickets for that. There's some other things I can't tell you about because I'll get in trouble, but there's some massive things coming. You've all been warned. I've been warning you all for ages. Something else is coming now, because that's how big we're going to be. Make sure you get on this train now, okay? If you've not joined the club, join the club. It's free. If you're not part of everything, just get involved, okay? If you're listening to this podcast, you think, who's this idiot? Just get involved, okay? We've launched Part Run today, Extreme Part Run, Part 8, or whatever it is. Then we're all going down to Dover, and we're going to run about up and down there for a bit. And there's loads going on, so get involved, all right? This is your last warning to get involved. I've got to give a shout out to the guys at Shoe Socks. I don't know what the code is, 4015, I think. Smash the life out of there, because they were how nice is this? They sent me a care package for after Berlin.
Aww.
They sent me all new fresh socks for upcoming races, because obviously got a big race in next weekend. Got a big race, so I've got some new socks for that. So that was kind enough for them, and obviously the guys at Start Fitness, UK, smash the life out of the code. You're welcome, and all that sort of stuff. I do want to talk about Berlin, right? Because there's some things you need to know, but I think we may need to come on to them in a minute.
All right.
Who's doing questions, by the way? Who's looking what the people are involved with today? The stuff. Because there's no speed goat tonight. I can't. I'm embargoed. So I'm in charge of the tech, right? So someone's got to keep an eye on the questions and things.
I'll
Who's
keep an
that?
eye on questions.
You're doing that, are you?
Yes,
Well, unless you need to go off and have a break, nature's break.
I'm inside. It's fine.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, he does that outside in the trees. Right. Carry on. I think I've revved everybody up, haven't I?
Yeah. It's like you don't
I'm
listen to
like
anything
one of them
I say.
bull riders, yeah. I'm about to go on and get on the ball. I'm like JB Mooney about to get on the ball and ride it. That's me. I'm the $7 million bull rider. That's me. That's how I feel like tonight. I'm
don't
ready
think
to go.
anyone knows who that is, and I don't think they want to know who that is either, if I'm perfectly honest.
That's me.
All right, good.
By the way, I sent Hayden a TikTok today. There's a lady on TikTok, right? If you can find her, please send the links also to Hayden because he really enjoys watching them. There's a lady who plays classical instruments and she plays the theme tune to all the Hobbit songs from Lord of the Rings. I found it today on TikTok. Hayden loves getting these, so can you please tag him or send them to him on Instagram, all the Hobbit songs, because it makes him feel like he's at home. Carry on.
I don't even know how to reply. What is the
James
point?
Finneran just put a question. How many members? We are now the biggest running club in the UK. I am not making that up for a change. Seriously, point, James. Get involved now. We are genuinely the biggest running club in the UK. Yeah. Started 6 years ago. You're welcome. Carry on.
Right. We're actually going to add some value for 2 minutes, which
Okay.
is Hayden, Extreme Park Run. Can we cover that? Because that's really important. And that is a great way for people to get involved in the club and in the community in a way that's kind of like we take as many barriers down as possible. So it's not, obviously, Park Run's not a paid for race. It's free on a Saturday morning. So do you want to give anyone that hasn't heard a bit of an overview of what it is and what's going on in January?
Yeah, sure. It was a concept that was come out of one of the satellite groups about 3 years ago now, just after lockdown. And they had the idea, as everyone started to travel to different park runs, do a bit of tourism, they had the idea of making this a bit extreme. Instead of going to your local one a couple of miles away, seeing how far we can go. And started looking at all sorts of ideas going into Paris on the Eurostar, but France never started back up after COVID with park runs. Yeah. So the very first one we come up with was Dublin. We managed to find flights for about 30 quid to Dublin for the morning. We flew over to Dublin, got off the plane, run to the park run, done the park run, spent the day in Dublin and got the plane back for 30 quid. So we sort of out of that evolved with Carolyn and Alan, this idea of if we can keep a cost to around about 25, 30 quid and we can get as many people as possible to these sort of day trips and it becomes an extreme park run rather than going to a local one. So since then we went over to Wales and done the park run where you run across the Severn Bridge. So you go from Wales into England, back into Wales. We went up to Great Yarmouth and done which is known as the toughest park run in the UK. That was a Great Yarmouth, all on the beach. We've been to Sommerdown, the Curly Whirly park run. We're just trying to get these adventures at least 2 or 3 times a year. And as you pointed out, they're completely free. Because of the park run, all you need to do is just meet us there. If you want to get on board with the transport, that's fine. There's a cost to that. That's literally, we try and keep that always under 30 quid. And if you do get on the transport, it's like a fun day out we have all sorts going on, prizes, quizzes, bingo. It's just a way of getting a community together with something that we all love, a bit of running, a bit of park run, just a bit of fun as a community together. And we just today, as Chris said, launched the latest version, which is round 6. And we are all going down to Dover. It's going to be down in Dover. It's a newish sort of park run, one of the quicker ones. In January, it's going to be cold. It's going to be tough. But I say, when there's literally already, I think there's over 100 people signed up already. So we'll just literally go to these park runs and take over and just make loads of noise and just show everyone how awesome the club is. And it's absolutely brilliant.
I love it. And I can testify because I did Isle of Wight and I did the Great Yarmouth one as well. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. You meet new people, which is the most exciting thing about it all, that you get to meet new people. And shows the strength and depth, obviously, of the club. But I think it just brings people from all around the country together. And it's just amazing. And it's obviously cost points important, which is, we're trying to reduce barriers to entry wherever we go. And I just think it's just incredible. It's an amazing concept by Alan, Carolyn, and obviously Hayden as well. I think it's brilliant. And it just brings everyone together. So I just take my hat off to all of them and everybody who gets proper involved in it. It's cracking.
Yeah, it is amazing. What I liked today was one of the comments basically from some of the Northerners who might struggle to get down to Dover, and they want to take you on at some point and do two at the same time. And I'm not going to lie, I reckon they'll be way more extreme than us down south, because they're pretty hardcore up there. So
They are hardcore.
yeah,
Definitely.
they're going to have you lot. And actually, for what last weekend was Vitality, that feels like it was ages ago.
I know. Last week was just like, honestly, it's just a blur. This, and then we have such a big race coming this weekend for all of us. It's coming up. Sorry, not this weekend, the following weekend. It's mental, isn't it? The end of the year, I think, is gonna like just blur into nothingness. And I think if you're sitting there, maybe Vitality 10K was like your A race because it was your first 10K, or it was the one you really wanted to do, and you don't know what to do with yourself. Get planning now, guys. Seriously, this is the time to sort of get that, get a piece of paper and write some ideas down, what you want to do, even for next year, for spring. Think about what you want to target, whether it's, I want to get my 5K a little bit quick. Oh yeah, go on in.
Well, if you really want to get involved, at the moment, Berlin Marathon lottery entries are open as we speak.
Yeah, Berlin Marathon, but you can get charity places for some of the half marathons if you want to get involved in them, like London Landmarks, or as I said, if you don't just focus on these big marathon things, but if you want to do like maybe you're on a couch, you want to start a couch to 5K again because you've been injured or something like that, now is the time to seriously sit back and go, right, okay, that's going to take me 6 to 12 weeks. Start planning out now. Honestly, it's a really good time to do it because there's so much going on in the community, so much going on in the club, so much going on all fronts. Yeah. It will just motivate you. So set your goals now, set your targets for next year, whatever it is. It's incredible. Yeah, but I know what you're saying. Berlin's open, and then you obviously a load of people, because someone just mentioned it in the comments. Yeah, about Boston. But that's a bit Hayden, I mean, somebody who's done it they've changed the times, haven't they? So that's
what happens is, for people that don't know, obviously to get into Boston, it's really difficult. You basically need a time qualifier, and they set the time to different ages. So for mine, for example, the year before last was 3 hours 20 minutes, and depending on the amount of people.
By the way, sorry, just to clarify, was that 70 to 80?
75 to 80, yeah.
Thank you, sorry.
And so it was 3 hours 20 minutes. So basically, if they get, I think they had something like about 2,000 spaces for my age category. So if 2,000 people, under 2,000 people apply and you run 3:19:59, you're in. But the more people that apply, they bring that time down. And this is the first year, it's a record year this year, where they've had to bring every time down in every category by, I think it was 5 minutes,
29 seconds.
5 minutes. And that's just extending the barriers. What they've done is, which is quite a topic for discussion, actually, they've increased their charity spaces, because obviously we're talking about income, which is wrong. So because they've done that, they've had to then reduce their places for the age grade qualified entry, which means it's smaller field, a faster field. It's going to be even harder to qualify.
How much is it to do charity place there?
10 grand, $10,000.
Oh.
And I think they charge the charity places $5,000. So the charity pays $5 grand, and they can sell their place for 10 grand, raising $5 grand for their charity.
Wow.
Which is great for the charities, but
puts you out of reach, though.
Where does it stop? Do they start having 50% of the marathon runners being charity runners?
Honestly, though, it made me think, because we know a few people, obviously, in the club and the community. And for those that did get in, like, huge congratulations, because that is some achievement, right? To be more than 5:29 under what is an already difficult and challenging qualifying time is incredible. So well deserved to all of those people. But we also know lots of people that would have qualified with the qualifying times and still didn't make it when they were well under as well. And you almost just go, is it becoming even more elitist than it already was? And at what point, like for me today, actually, because we know a few people that have run great times, and you just go, hold on, at what point do we go, enough is enough here? Like, I know it's one of the majors, I know it is huge, I know it's kind of the pinnacle of a lot of things, and for those slightly faster runners to get those times is such an achievement. But then to not get in when you've already met that barrier, that must really sting. And I just had this thought today where I just went, hold on, when do we go enough is enough, right? You make it hard enough. It's now harder because lots of people have done it, and that's at no discredit to those people that have run those times, because like I said, that is a huge achievement. But then you put more charity places in at 10 grand a time. It's like, hold on, why not just shove a ballot in for 10,000 places?
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree.
And make it slightly more accessible to give those people that are either looking for their 6-star and aren't quicker runners, so can't qualify based on time, that opportunity, and just to give everyday runners an opportunity. Why should a marathon, one of the world majors, only be for the faster people?
Well, this is the
it
thing,
really
isn't it?
jars with me on a personal level, because I just go, it's just not fair. That's not right.
It is not fair. I get the people who run those times and all that sort of stuff, and I do think some of this, right, is because of the pandemic, because a lot of people got into running, and maybe they were, I don't know, they were athletes in another sport, right? So they carried that into running because running was the big thing during the pandemic, and that's followed through and all that kind of thing. So I think that is one of the reasons for all this sort of stuff going on. But I do think, I just do find the whole thing, and I'm going to get crucified, I do find the whole thing rather elitist and rather, and I just think, it should be, it's a world major, and I appreciate that it's meant to be at the top, and you're going to have the top elite runners there and all that sort of stuff. But, London Marathon are able to offer it out, so Berlin are able to offer it out. Why not just try and include some?
I know what you're saying. Just so give a little bit of perspective on that. I belong to like these world major groups. You see the discussions. The hardest marathon that a lot of people, especially Americans, really, really go on about and whinge all the time about is getting into London. For them, London, they end up doing their 5 stars, and London for them is the one that they can't get into. If you're from abroad, you can't run a grade age qualifying time to get into London.
You get a charity place if you're abroad.
I think they're limited.
Yeah.
It's a possibility, but it's very hard for people to get into London. Whereas us guys here, almost there is a way into London if we really want to, if it is a charity. Whereas the guys in Boston, I think they have certain ways they can get into Boston. So I think it's looking at both perspectives.
Yeah, true. I think they should open the whole thing up. I think the whole thing is rather elitist. I appreciate that it's meant to be the pinnacle of endurance-based running in certain people's eyes, right? I know there's a lot of other things, UTMB and stuff. But I think in terms of the world major, I just think it, like everything, it's all, it's just way too commercial, and it's just all too...
Here's a question. Do you either think they should or they will, don't know, take it how you want, answer it, change the qualifying time? So obviously this year they had a record number of people applying, and I think the times they're not as fast as actually Berlin and New York to qualify, I don't think, and even Tokyo possibly. So I think those are quicker to qualify. You've got to be quicker. So do you think they'll make the qualifying time quicker, or do you think they should make it quicker to balance out at least people not feeling disappointed when they've hit the target, gone beyond the target, and then you're still knocked back?
Yeah, well, I think he's hit the nail on the head. That's exactly what they're going to have to do. Otherwise, each year that 5 minutes, 14, whatever, that's going to creep and creep. At the end of the day, we have to accept as well that as human nature, we are getting faster, better training techniques, better footwear. These things are making us run faster. So them time limits, they're going to have to go up. Otherwise, as you said, you're going to have people every year, not moaning, it's the wrong word, but like upset, down about it. Whereas if they knew already right now, there's somebody in our community, her name's Nettie, I know she won't mind me saying this. She was 11 seconds outside. She ran just over 5 minutes, 5 minutes 20 inside Boston qualifying time. Almost, she was quite confident, thinking I'm going to get there. She was 11 seconds she missed it by. And that is one hell of an effort she put in to get there. And you just think she's so disappointed. Whereas if she would have known that the qualifying time, like next year, is 5 minutes faster, she would have known she probably wouldn't have got in because she was too tight on it. So I think they're going to have to do that. I think you're right.
And I think there's no taking away from people's disappointment, right? Because it will be heartbreaking and heart-wrenching for them. But I really do hope that anyone that didn't get in and they qualified knows that this is a numbers game. It is not down to their ability or their hard work or their commitment and how they have run and the training and the commitment they've given to get there, because it is hard work, and people give 16, 18 weeks, whatever it is, of giving up stuff and really, really...
But there's more to marathons, people. This is the thing. You're all sitting there getting everyone depressed.
No, we're not.
Running these bleeding world majors, right? I know I'm sitting here pot kettle in a Berlin marathon top, getting all excited, right? But I do get annoyed about everybody keep talking about bleeding marathons. Just go out and run. Just go out and have fun. Just go and run for your mental health. Just take your watch off. Go and do a bit of exercise, whatever it is. If you can get out and run, just do whatever you want to do. Forget about these marathons and these big events. Who gives a two hoops about it? Just go and do a run through event local to you, and just go down a park run. It's free. Just go and do that and focus on that, and don't get het up with all this. We get sucked into all this nonsense because of people like me, or idiots like me on YouTube and all these other things.
I'm glad you said it.
Yeah, but it is complete madness. It's just complete madness. Just everybody stop talking about marathons and just go out and run. That's it. You've been told.
What's everyone doing next week?
Oh yeah, by the way, I'm busy. I'm in Chicago. No, honestly, look, I'm just saying, right? You've got to be. I think you've got to temper all this sort of stuff, right? I think for 90% of the people in the world, or
Yeah.
even higher, this conversation is totally irrelevant,
Yeah.
right? And I appreciated the same thing that everybody today or yesterday is disappointed because they worked their butts off to get a qualifying time. They got told different, right? I get all that, but honestly, just go out and run. And if you run quick enough, you end up in a marathon. Great. If you don't, sod it. You know, at least you're doing something, you know, for your mental health and your fitness. So just crack on. I think that's the way. And more importantly, you know, I think what we should be praising is the ability of certain members of this team to take nature into their bosom and use nature as their toilet.
Right. I want to know what this is about. Come on.
What?
If you're going to put a
No,
name like that up, Ben, you've got to
I don't
share
know
the
whether we
story
should-
with our listeners because everyone now wants to know.
I think we should probably wait because there's a cracking video coming out on Sunday. And I had to edit some of it because I thought I might get told off for this. Do I tell them, Ben?
I mean, you said you were going to.
Yeah, I did say I was going to say. So, if anyone's done, look, I'm now going to completely
Talk about marathon.
Can I just ask, do we want Ben's version of the truth or your version?
No, always my version is best. Or Ben, you're going to give your. I'll tell you what. Let's listen to Ben, and then I'll tell the truth.
I mean, are you going to interrupt me as I tell the story?
Yeah, I've got ADHD. Of course, I'm going to interrupt you. Carry on.
Okay, so basically, we were walking up towards the pens. We got pretty much ready to go on into the starting pen, and I needed to go to the toilet, as you do, right? Exactly, as Barbara said, if nature calls, go for it. So there were about 8 portaloos there, but there was this massive queue and we couldn't really work out what was going on. I was like, it's fine, I'll queue. We got about 5 minutes before the start, and someone who won't be named had said about 3 or 4 times to me every minute, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do?
Most impatient man in the world.
If you've seen Friends, there's that scene where, who is it? Chandler or Joey is standing there going, do it, do it, do it. Literally, that was Chris.
No, that was the cameraman who did that.
So there were loads of trees and woods around, so I was at one with nature.
Right, now the real story. So we're walking down. I have to say, I think Berlin Marathon is terrible in terms of organisation. I thought it was absolutely shocking how badly organised, considering the Germans do usually a very good, efficient job. And I have to commend them on the train from Hamburg to Berlin. But it was absolutely, well, no, what's the best? A chaos is the best way to describe it. When you go through, there was no signs, nothing, right? It was complete and utter chaos, right? I have to, again, London Marathon events, well done, because you do a cracking job at Greenwich Park, right? This was the worst marathon in terms of organisation I've ever been to. And you went for about a 5-hour walk to the start, and there was no signs, there was no toilets, there was nothing. All you kept doing was seeing people, mainly men, and their rear ends in the sky doing number 2s. And I'm literally just saying, you're walking down this path and there's people to the left, people to the right of you, pooing everywhere. There was with no worries about it. Just, I'll go there, looks like a tree. Bosh, have some of that. Bosh, have some of that. There was literally filling up, right? And all you could smell was feces.
What?
And as you got closer and closer, more people were going. And then they sort of took you to the left-hand side to get you down to the where we thought was the start. As we're walking down there, everyone's peeling off. Another number 2, filling up the forest with human feces. And we got down to this thing, and there was like 5 toilets. There was no direction about how to get into your pen, by the way. There was just, you saw the start. There was 5 portaloos. There's everybody weeing up against the portaloos and everybody pooing next to the portaloos. And then there's people going through the forest, treading on people's poo, by the way, because there was a geezer in front of me with his Alpha Fly 2s had a massive turd stuck to the Zoom X on the bottom of his Alpha Fly 2s. And then he realised just before he started, me and Ben wet ourselves because he saw that. And then there's everyone's pooing, weeing, climbing over the barriers to try and get in. It was complete and utter carnage. So disorganised, so badly managed. There was no marshals apart from one geezer, bless him, who's trying to keep people out of the pen. But everyone's just climbing over anyway. It was total and utter madness.
Yeah.
And
It was.
and more importantly, Ben took a number 2 in the forest.
Considering
And it really
you're
was.
telling me to sign up for this race, you've just put me and probably everyone else off because it sounds.
But Ben, was that true?
It absolutely is true. Like it was, you go in and it was like pen A, B, and C. There's no one checking anything. So people walking around like with wave F and stuff like that. So there was just so many people. You didn't know that the queue that was by the toilets was waiting to get down into.
Actually waiting to get into the starting pen, but it looked like they were queuing for the toilet. But everyone was like, oh, I can't bother to wait for that. So what I'll do is I'll just wee up against the toilet, or I might just do a dump against the toilet, which was one guy was doing, which was brilliant. And the smell was absolutely disgusting.
And
you go into a portaloo at the start. Usually you open it up and you think actually the portaloo smelled better than the forest. That's how bad it was.
But Hayden, was it like this last year when you were there?
Honestly, this just sounds like we're just on complete different worlds or different planets. It was absolutely nothing like this whatsoever. Not that I'm doubting his story or not that he's hyping it up to get people to watch his video. Nothing like that at all. Honestly, I never saw any of this, any kind. It was quite.
Yeah, but remember, you are very, very, very short and very small.
Does that mean I'd be in more trouble? I'd be in more trouble, wouldn't I?
You wouldn't have seen. All you'd have seen is like people's like bags and stuff. You wouldn't have seen anything.
And their knees.
And the trees would have felt like massive to you. Imagine if something. Well, no, it's just probably a little bit.
No, honestly, we didn't. I didn't see. I didn't
see any of it
at all. I must be honest.
So anyway, that was that. That was the Berlin Marathon for the first bit.
So I will give the Berlin Marathon. Sorry, one little bit of like not so much Berlin, but everyone seems to compare it like you just were with London at the start. The thing with London is London starts from different locations. 4 different start locations. Whole idea of Berlin, which makes it a little bit special, and Great North Run, is that you all start on that same start line. So at Great North Run, when you turn around, we was all in that pen a couple of weeks ago. You turn around and you see behind you, that's getting everyone in that long line. So that's why it's a little bit more difficult. Whereas at London, they've got it a bit easier, where everyone starts on different locations and they meet up further on the course. So I've got to give Berlin a little bit of, leeway for that, because it is tough to get everyone, to get 40, 50,000 people lined up in one line to go all the way along. That's a tough job. But if you're telling me what you just told me of that scenario, yeah, obviously that's disgusting.
Pen A, B, and C. That's where the poo action was going on.
That's the elites.
Make sure
the elites.
You don't go in wave A, B, or C to avoid the poo action.
Other than that, though, I have to say it was an amazing, like an absolutely amazing experience. The race was an amazing experience. I'm not talking pre-race. It was fantastic, and it didn't dampen anything. It's one of those things. You just kind of get on with it. Once we got into the starting pen, we got down there. I think couple of minutes before the start, saw the elites being announced and stuff. It didn't dampen it at all.
What was the support on course like?
Brilliant.
Was it busy? Yeah,
I roll back a bit, right? Because I have to say, like Ben, right? Once you got actually into the pen and you waded through the male and female feces and got actually into the pen, it was absolutely incredible. It was honestly, it was worth wading through that, to get into that start, because it felt London's buzzing, right? But the atmosphere in that pen was better than London. I think, like Hayden said, because everybody's together, everybody's behind you. It did remind me of the Great North Run, but there was like maybe because Kipchoge was there, it was just like on another level. And when it went off, it was just, and that adrenaline carried you literally the whole way. And we was just like 16 miles. We're like, oh, we're at 16 miles. How the hell do we get here so quick? It was unbelievable. The only complaint, and I wasn't complaining, by the way, about all that toilet issues at the start. I just think it was quite amusing. But I think the only complaint, if I had a complaint about Berlin Marathon, is what Marissa was saying about the cups. Because unfortunately, I don't know whether it's the Europeans, and I'm not singling people out here, but people are running along, and I don't know whether they've just got no brains, but they just drop their cup in the middle of. Why would you just drop a cup? Why not just put it over to the side or in one of the bins that says like put it, like where to put it? They were literally just running along and dropping a cup in the middle of the lane. So then everybody has to go over that cup. And I don't get why. I mean, I saw one guy, right? He was in front of me and he's taking his drink really carefully. And he so carefully placed it on the floor. He spent more effort putting it on the floor. Why not just go over to the left-hand side, which was maybe a metre away, and put it down over there? And I truly believe what Marissa was saying. The guys and girls further back, right, would have had an absolute shocker with those cups because it was bleeding dangerous at some points. There was so many when we went through, and we was near the start. So God only knows what those guys had to put up with.
It's just the plastic cups, by the way. Yeah.
And mate, you laugh, right?
Eco-friendly.
They want to try and be sustainable and all this. Oh, you can't bring plastic in here. You can't bring plastic in there. Stop me as I come through. Oh, you can't bring your plastic in here, mate. And then they're putting all that plastic on the floor. It makes no sense to me whatsoever. But I just feel for the people who are further behind, because that, like Marissa brought up, that would have been really disappointing. I mean, again, but that didn't stop me having the best marathon I've ever had with Ben. We had the best time, like ever. We was just running along, singing, dancing, having selfies with the policeman who just thought, what's going on here? And we had the best. We literally had the best time ever, and I would recommend it to everybody. We just had so much fun.
In the comments,
marathons and running should be about is, you know, if you want to go for your time, I appreciate that, but we had such a blast. We
must have. In the comments, it says Chris asked my husband for a kiss. I'm guessing this is Helen.
Yeah, no, I did. Helen dived in at like 3,000 miles an hour, and I think because we was talking the whole way, because we knew Helen was in D, and we was like, has she passed us? Hasn't she passed us? And obviously Helen's quick, right? So Ben kept me company because I hobbled around, and we was just expecting. And all of a sudden, she went straight across us, dived in, and gave her husband a kiss. So then I turned around and said, "What about me? Do I get a kiss?" And he looked, and oh, brilliant. They didn't. That's the only thing with the Germans. I don't think they understand the Cockney accent.
No.
Because when I was going in for the water, they really didn't get it either, did they, Ben? Really?
No, they were just looking at you. But yeah, Sabrina, to your point, in terms of support, I think whilst the crowds probably weren't in parts not necessarily as deep as London and stuff like that, I think, you know, we had Cheer Squad with us, so massive shout out to Tracy and Alan for that, and everyone else who was there supporting. But they'd kind of picked points that they were going to find us at, and we absolutely did. And I think at 37k, I'd said to Chris, "Oh right, they're going to be on the right hand side," and we were just keeping an eye out and just saw the pink FORDY flag. You see like the pictures and stuff, and just kind of ran into their arms. And actually, it was quite funny because we would get a picture and they suddenly push back, because I think the crowds had just pushed so far forward. They were on the blue line at that point, but the crowds were epic. And Tracy at the end, she messaged me. So I had my phone out because I was just checking in on where Tracy was going to be.
No, he wasn't. He was on Instagram the whole way around.
I was getting everyone to experience the pain that I was going through. But she'd said, "Oh, I'm by Brandenburg Gate," and we were like, "Oh, amazing!"
Yeah.
Not realizing that she was on the other side of it, so we'd run through the gate and just got some really epic pictures where Tracy was so amazing at the start line that you just wouldn't get in London, would you?
We was waiting for it. We was waiting because I'd started walking then, because I said to Ben, I was in pain, whatever, right? But I said to Ben, I'm just going to start walking. I said, but when we've got to get going again, because when we turn that corner, we're going to see it. And we kept going, and we just kept running in the end because we was expecting to see it. And then all of a sudden you turned and then you saw the Brandenburg Gate, and it was just like, this is epic. I mean, this is phenomenal to see that. And it was just such an amazing feeling, because it was almost like when you come through the Brandenburg, it was loud, but when you came through the Brandenburg Gate, it was like someone opened the doors and you walked into a stadium and all your friends were in there. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
And you can't help, unless, I mean, you're absolutely blown out your rear end. But we stopped and had a selfie. But you can't help but smile when you walk through that.
Yeah.
And it's a similar sort of thing to Great North Run. You dive down into South Shields, and there's like, you know, hundreds of your mates down there, basically, like carrying you through. But it was literally like someone had opened the doors into a stadium full of your friends when you came through. When we was running at that point, Ben. When we came through the Brandenburg Gates, it was unbelievable. It really was, and that's the thing, right? I said about the marathons, blah blah blah. But if there is one that you ever decide to do, right, honestly, sack off London, because that finish was immense.
Yeah.
It
Wow.
really, really was. To go down that final stretch. Obviously, I've not done the other world majors. We're going to get a couple in the next couple of weeks, but it's going to be. I don't know whether I think that's going to be hard to top. London's incredible. Tower Bridge is incredible. Cutty Sark's incredible. But the start, because they go all corporate down there, and they want all their mates. Oh yeah, give us a 10 grand. I'll get you at the start and all this business, right? It kind of loses a bit of that. I think you see Buckingham Palace and you come out of Birdcage is probably louder than the finish at London. But because it was aligned with people, it was unbelievable.
Well, do you know what? It sounds like everyone from the UK or London had gone to Berlin for the weekend, because Vitality 10K, Hayden, I don't know if you agree with me, was the quietest roads I've ever seen at a London race.
Yeah, it wasn't just the roads that were quiet. I found the actual race. I was in one of the front pens, but I must be honest, found that there was times I was running, it was like there was just no one else even around. It was really quiet this year, really quiet.
I'll tell you why, because it's at the wrong time of the year.
Yeah, good call.
That race is traditionally been in May, right?
Yeah.
If you're listening to this in Peru, Mongolia, we're the biggest running podcast in those countries. It's a race that traditionally takes place in London in May, and the bank holiday, we get a bank holiday over here. And it's always traditionally taken place in May. I don't know, whatever reason, whether it's money or whatever, right? A London Marathon events is too close to Brighton. I ain't got a clue.
No, well, it moved this year because of the King's coronation.
There we go. Right. Okay.
That's what it was this year.
A good reason. I just hope that returns back to May next year, because it seems to get more support where it's been in May. I really enjoy that race. I really enjoy it. It's always a good run. It's always a good course. We had a great time the other year. We took the kids up there on the Sunday, did the mile. It's a fantastically well-organised event. I know they had problems this year. Okay, right. No.
Awful.
Before this, yeah, I know that. But before that, this year, it's been impeccable, to be honest with you. It really has. Bag drops been questionable, but overall, the whole experience, the volunteers, everything were amazing at that event. But this year, I don't know. I can understand what you're saying. Someone's just said date again is in September 2024. I just don't see the point of having it in September. I think it must be down to having Brighton and London in April, and they can't physically manage it. Or I don't know. Maybe that's what it is.
Disappointing. That, as in, don't get me wrong, the course was great. It was a good run, and our volunteers at the end were bloody brilliant. And you came through the finish, you kind of got your medal and walked along, and they were there with open arms and just warmth and love and kindness, and not just for people with a FORDY top on, but for everyone. You could see Marissa just beaming, Jatilla screaming at people, like Mel there fishing out t-shirts to make sure everyone had something. You know, when you just like, Mark Stone, all of them were out in full force, which was lovely. So huge shout out to them, because those guys were up early and then etc. giving up. And that's
what we were saying about, don't just forget about these marathons, because it might be an idea to target like Vitality next year and have a go at a 10K. If you're listening to this and you just trot about and you're just doing Catch the 5K or whatever, you're just getting into it or whatever, but maybe target one of those big ones, because A6 is usually a good one as well.
Yeah.
That takes place in July. It's hot, so be aware of that. But those bigger 10Ks. I want to know what sort of other 10Ks there are around the country. I know obviously there's some big ones. You've got the ones up in Leeds, the Leeds 10K. You've got obviously Bladen, which is not 10K, but you've got the Bladen races, which was just an unbelievable experience. But what other sort of big 10Ks are there? Because I'd like to get out and try some of them next year if possible. I'd be interested to know.
There is one in Brighton as well. I feel like they're everywhere. There are
Brighton 10K, there's Manchester 10K.
Manchester 10K I'd like to try.
Yeah, I think all the big ones sort of get that. Can I just before we go off Berlin, and I know Monday nights obviously it's bite size where Chris, you talk about all things tech and that. I feel it's the right forum here. Just for a couple of minutes, can you just give me your honest opinion? Because I was just shocked when I read it, because I wasn't quite aware about the women's winner in the Berlin Marathon and the the Adidas Pro Evo, the shoes. Can you just give me your honest opinion of what you think about them, and just tell people what they are doing for people and how much they cost and how ridiculous it is?
Well, firstly, I'm going to counter that. I didn't run a world record, but I ran the 26.2 miles in a pair of Go Ride 11s
Best shoes on earth.
All right, so that just tells you a lot of this trainer stuff is complete nonsense. Because I trotted about in a very comfortable pair of Skechers Go Ride 11s, and they're an absolute joy. Okay, you can buy them for whatever, 100 quid, 130 quid, and they were lovely. All right, so I'm just putting that out there because I think that deserves a big shout out, because I proved again that the everyday runner doesn't need carbon plated racing $3,000 shoes. Okay, I trotted about. We was on for 357 till I said to Spen, "What are we doing this for? Why don't we just stop and start mucking about?"
That wasn't quite what he said, by the way.
No, I said my bum's hurting. But anyway, but yeah, so my point is you don't need all these flashy shoes. But yes, in terms of that, I think firstly, that lady who we met in the into whatever hotel, we met all the elites. They loved it when I went in there. I think she's incredible, and I think that's an amazing achievement what she's done. And I think to smash the world record in that amount of time that she did, everybody took note, and I think it should be commended, the fact that she put women's running again at the at the front of the conversation, even though it's Kipchoge's this and that. I just think that was a powerful statement that she kicked butt then, right?
Yeah.
In terms of the shoes, I actually saw the shoes when we was there, and they look all right, but I just think the whole thing, I get why they've had to do it, because of they have to produce so many, legalities and all this sort of stuff, right? So, so it conforms with all the different regulations and all this sort of stuff. I get why it's on sale, but it's absolutely pointless. I admire the fact that they've gone to that extent to create something. It's like when Kipchoge years and years ago with the shoes that they gave him. I think anything like that technology-wise, I think should be applauded. Innovation should be applauded. But for normal people, it's totally irrelevant. It's like, you just don't need half the shoes that are out there. That nobody should be spending £200 on a pair of running shoes. Really, you shouldn't. It's just absolutely pointless. Pick up a couple of years ago, or a pair of Go Ride 11s, and you'll still plod about. Honestly, you don't. I just think the whole thing is barking mad. But that said, I admire the innovation. I think Adidas, Nike, all these brands, they're doing incredible things in terms of technology, and hopefully, I know it sounds like Mercedes, like all that technology they put in those like really expensive cars, filters down. They do it with a Prime X2 strung, which is 250 quid. The technology on there, most of it's illegal, but it will filter down into your road-based shoes. You can see it now, even with like the Boston 12s. It's the technology in there with the energy rods and all that sort of stuff. It's all filtering down into your road going shoes, for which you can pick up for now you can pick some of those shoes for well under £100, which I think is good, because it gives people who may not be able to afford those super shoes an opportunity to try some of that.
But single use shoe for one race.
Yeah, but the thing is, Hayden, you've got to kind of put that one side. They have to produce so many to make them, in terms of the regulations and things like that. I think they have to do a certain thing, and when you're making a shoe, and that shoe was made specifically to run a world marathon record time. Yeah, so you can kind of understand. I'm not justifying anyway. I'm telling you that I think it's madness, but I can understand why they've done it, because that shoe was built with one sole aim, which was to break a record, which it did.
It did.
Yeah.
So I think that's where it should be commended. The fact that they're selling it for 400 quid is, but it's our own fault, because there are idiots who pay £400 for the shoe. So if you've got more money than sense, crack on.
I mean, there are bigger idiots paying over £1,000 for him on eBay, but enough said about that.
That's the thing.
But people actually, just quickly, there've been a couple of trainer comments coming through. Guys, please head over to Monday night on Bite Size with Chris. He will answer all of your trainer, kit, all of those questions there, to get them in over on a Monday.
We could talk about Go Ride 11s all night.
Can I just say, I've done all of my Chicago training in them. They are brilliant. People that want an everyday shoe, no word of a lie. They have been incredible. Trusted shoes.
Right. I'm gonna switch attention quickly, because Gary, we're not talking about winter running or anything tonight. I said that at the start. I've completely overridden. We will talk about that subject, but I thought, you know what, tonight we're just gonna hang out and talk nonsense. So sorry, Gary. Come back in a couple of weeks. Next week's a recorded special, because we're all in Chicago. So next week next week's a recorded special for anybody turning in live. We won't be here because all the team other than Wilco's is in Angelillo's in Chicago. So just bear that in mind. Next week we're not live, but I'm live on Monday, and I'm not 100% sure if I'll be live on the Monday after. It depends on certain things. So we will pick up this subject that we said we talk about some other point. So look, let's turn our attention to Chicago, because we won't be in touch with the viewers.
Yeah.
I will on this Monday, because I don't have to travel that early. So when what's our so Hayden, in terms of expectations for you for Chicago, are you fun running the time, just going to get a bobble hat? What's the situation? You flying all that way just to get a silly hat? What are you doing?
I'd go with all three. Basically, a combat. I've actually really messed up everything this time about it. Originally, I was going to really go out for Chicago and go for a good time. I feel like I got unfinished business from last year. I had a bit of a nightmare in the last 6 miles. So I was originally going to go out for a good time, but the plan just didn't start on time. I had a few niggles. I went on holiday. So basically, I thought to myself, right, I'm going to make New York my target.
Holiday again.
Holiday again. Yeah, sorry about that bit. But I basically then turned to thinking New York's going to be my main target. But then you start looking at New York and realise that it's a bloody hard marathon. It's not really one you want as a target. So I'm sort of left in limbo. Whereas I think maybe Chicago is going to be just a long run on the Sunday. Then I think to myself, if I feel good, should I go for a little bit? I don't want to get injured for New York. Basically, to answer the question, I haven't got an absolute clue what I'm going to do. I'm just going to go out there, see what happens.
It'll be good. We'll have a good time. Abin?
Rubbish, honestly. Honestly. There's a lot of people who don't even realise these stupid little innuendos. This guy thinks that it really gets to me. He is winding me up. He won't tell me if he's running Chicago next week.
Look how agitated he is. The little hobbit really getting annoyed. It's because he hasn't got he's put his little ring on now. Look, this is what it is. I was asking Abin, not you. Abin, what are your expectations? Obviously, we don't want to build it up too much, right? We don't want to tell the people exactly what you're going for. She's going for 3:45.
No.
We don't want to build it up too much. Are you ready for this world record attempt with your £400 shoes which you bought?
Firstly, I definitely don't have £400 shoes. I think that's Gemma Pedler that's commented saying, you know what you need to do. I'll try, Gemma. Let's be honest. I've had a decent training block for the first time.
You're welcome.
Been consistent. I've got the miles in, and I feel like I've worked hard. I'll be honest. I feel like I've worked hard. I've done the long runs, and I felt all right. It's been hard at times. Don't get me wrong, but so let's see. First and foremost, look, we're going to the other side of the world. I've been to Edinburgh to run, but that doesn't really count on a train or plane train. I can't remember now.
No, we beat you on the train.
Oh God, let's not go into that again. I'm going to the other side of the world pretty much for the first time to run. So this is whole new territory for me. And I think I don't take it lightly, having watched what happened to Toby in Tokyo and speaking to Hayden, you and Lou and everyone else that says, right, it's given some amazing... Just stop laughing.
I can't help. Whenever someone says Toby in Tokyo, I just remember the picture of him absolutely ruined 16 miles walking. I'm sorry. He went to the other side of the world for a walk.
So hard.
Oh,
God. His friend.
Stop it.
Brilliant. Carry on.
So look, the aim is to get out there, be safe, get home in one piece, and what happens will happen. I've trained hard. I've trained well.
You have trained hard. I've got to give her credit, right? She has trained proper this time. I applaud her coach who wrote it's me. And but I'm being serious here. Credit where credit's due. Like Ben, she's worked her socks off this time round. So she's in the best shape I've ever seen her. So fair play to her. Done everything right. You know, she's run quicker in training than she's needed to. She's done a lot of longer miles with Toby, obviously, because he's got a big race coming up. So all that sort of stuff. She's really pulled her finger out. Like Ben, worked his butt off. Getting credit for him. He finished Berlin with me. He's done part run. It was absolutely embarrassing how much he had left in him when he finished. He's probably 50% used up. So I'm excited to see. I'm also got to give a shout out to the fans' favourite Simon, who Mr. Ratings himself. because he's also done a cracking job in his training. Whatever comes in terms of result or whatever, I think you can only look back at how well you did your training and go, you know what, that's a fair result. On some days it's not going to be your day, right? Just put that to one side. But in general, these guys, I've seen them obviously firsthand how well they've trained. Speedgoat as well, how well they've trained for Sunday. It's incredible what they've done this time around. So I've got to commend them all, because it's annoying, but they have actually really worked well actually.
What about your plan? How's your plan gone towards Chicago?
I can't believe that my body's going to hold up to all what's coming in terms of getting all these majors. What?
Me neither.
It's just, I don't know. It's hard. It's really, really hard. We've got big races coming up. That's all I can say. I'm embargoed. I am embargoed. It's true. So no,
You are embargoed, but
I am embargoed.
you can talk about yourself if you want.
No, because I'll get into trouble. I've just thought about that, and you'll try and stitch me up there, because I know that I'll get in trouble if I talk. Because then, if I start talking, then I won't be able to control what I say. And then, Ben, help me.
Maybe we should ask Ben how he's feeling.
Yeah,
Come on,
Ben, get me out of jail.
So I did feel really bad when we finished Berlin with someone broken next to me in pain, and on a scale of 1 to 10.
No, but I'm just shocked that you start amusing. I mean, I've got a disc problem in my lower back.
I mean, you went all the way to Berlin to walk, right? Like,
yeah, I've got the 23 miles. I thought, so this, I'm going to walk the rest.
No, genuinely, I'm joking. That was great, and I did love it. It was so nice feeling it. I decided before we started that it was going to be a long run for me. Chicago is my A race, but like you, Sabrina, there is a time difference. We've got the travel. Berlin's an hour away, an hour and a half, and there's now
1 hour and 30 minutes on the plane.
Absolutely. Even with Tracy corrupting me and trying to, take me out and about in Berlin, I did get back in time. Chicago's my A race. My aim is I would love to break 3.5. I'll put that out there. But on the day, you just don't know what's going to happen. And as long as I get across the finish line safely, then I'll be happy. I'll be over the moon with sub 3.5. But there's time, there'll be time for that next year if I don't. And as long as I come home with a bobble hat too.
yes.
Me too. The boy's in good form. And you feel all right after Sunday? All seriousness?
I do.
Yeah, that was the aim. That was genuinely when I started getting. I'm not making this up. I think it was 18 miles when I went. Oh, that word. I really got like a massive shooting pains down, like someone stuck a knife in me, and then I just said to him, "We've got to be a bit careful here." And then I was thinking to myself, actually, I've got more. Also, I've got to make sure that he's not in a position where he's at risk. Because it's important, it's important to me that he does well in Chicago, and he done Berlin, and he carried me for those miles. So at least I could do is make sure he got over the line, and he felt great, and he did. So that was, I think the policeman probably at mile 23 helped quite a lot with that. Yes, he's nodding.
There were more policemen than water stopped. One
of the things wasn't worrying is by the end of it, he was counting the policemen. That's how tuned out he was. Apart from being on Instagram and filming me in agony, he was then counting how many policemen he could see, which is just, you've got all this put up with Hayden, because he's running with you in Chicago. I can't say that. He's running with you in Chicago because that's at the speed that obviously you're going.
Yeah, that's it. Bring it on. The thing I absolutely love about Ben, actually, I think it's, do you know what? When it comes to marathon running, it's quite a big thing. People have got confidence, and you've just come out and said, you put it out there, you're going, you'd like to go sub 3:30 or around that sort of mark. I absolutely love people who do that, because you have so many people, myself included, maybe even admin's a little bit more reserved about, she knows what she's got there. But we're not going to come out of time and say, I'm going to do this. But people that do it, honestly, that confidence, that works, and that gives you a bit of a boost. And funny enough, with Chicago, I messaged Helen a couple of days before she went out there and said to her, how are you feeling about Berlin? Are you going for it? And she messaged back, absolutely, go big or go home. I'm not going there for fun. And she said, I know what she was going for. And she, bloody hell, oh God, she got it. But it's like, I think that confidence, and honestly, Ben, keep that confidence in you. And you should have the confidence, you deserve it for what you gone through your training plan, that will see you through, definitely.
I think it's a massive tip to take it into whatever you do. It's like when it sounds funny, even when Ben and I went down to Southend and we said, we're going to run a 5K PB today.
Yeah.
We're going to do this. And we did. You got to own it. You've got to have a strategy. I've got to give a shout out to Bam Bam. He's running Loch Ness on Sunday. And I had a convo with him. And I just said to him, what's your strategy? And he was on point. I know exactly what I'm doing. Bang, 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 bang. And I think you've got to own what you're going to do. I knew that I was going to run slow, and I knew that, and I owned it before I went even across the start line. I said to Ben, this is what I'm going to do today. We're going to run 9:05 the whole way until I break. You've got to know and have the confidence before you start. So whatever you're doing, whether you're doing your first 5K, first 10K, you're going for a half PB, have in your mind before you start how you see that day going. Obviously, it's not always going to work out, but own it. Like you just said, own it. Yeah. And that confidence will breed results. I'm telling you now. You might not get it the first time. You might not get it the second time. You might need a lay down at 25.5 miles, but you will get it, and it will come. But you've got to own it. You've got to know exactly what you're doing and where you go. Not that it's pressure. Don't think of it as pressure. Think of it as a challenge and get your teeth into it. Would you agree, Ben? I know you're chomping at the bit to jump in.
No, I totally agree with you. I think it is not putting that pressure on yourself, but having that plan in your head. So I think I went into London with a bit of a plan. Like, for me, I've been really lucky, and he hasn't paid me to say this, but I've had Chris for my first 2 marathons. So in terms of from getting through the distance, I've had that. Now it is right. What is my strategy? Yeah, I'm slightly concerned that I'm running by myself, but I've done the training. I've got the time in mind just for me what my strategy is for the race. And you know what? As I said, on race day, if it doesn't go to plan, it's a learning experience. As long as you cross that finish line safely, that is number one priority. Outside of that,
have either of you started looking at the weather?
Yes.
It's going to be hot.
It's going from one extreme to another.
Yeah.
It was like saying 26 and now it's saying 14.
Yeah. So weird.
Yeah, it went down to 14 today.
Hey, I'll send you. Tobe's got a really good app that he's been tracking it on. I'll send it to you.
What? Literally overnight, from I think Monday night to like Wednesday. Originally, it was supposed to be 28 degrees, and then I looked and I was like, oh, I need to repack.
But sometimes I'll never forget. Day before Tokyo, I was in the bedroom. I've got that Alexa thing. I just said, Alexa, what's the weather like in Tokyo? It came up with it was like snowstorms and all this sort of stuff. And I was like, geez, what are we going to do about this? We'll go out there. It was absolutely lovely. Nothing wrong with it at all. So that's something you can't change. So just
don't worry about it.
Listen, also, we're going to have the kit that we've got because we're on the other side of the world. Yeah. We wear what we've got. We wear what we know we're going to wear. We do what we know we've got to do. That's it. It doesn't make any difference.
A little tip as well. You said about Ben referred to the other side of the world. We're 5 hours behind, jet lag and that. What me and Louise had done last year which we found really helped, was we almost kept ourselves on English time. Yeah. So we was, you might say we were bored. We was going to bed at 8:30, 9 o'clock. But that meant we was up at Chicago time at like 4:30, 5 in the morning every single morning, which obviously at race day, we all know we've got to be in our pens by 5:30, 6 in the morning. So, it's pretty hardcore. So we'd say it on English time. So when the actual marathon morning, we was ready for it. We was up. And it just felt.
Especially if you're flying in and flying out. Yeah. It's really important to stay on English time.
Yeah, that's my plan. That is genuinely my plan. And when I was in Detroit earlier this year, like with work, I did exactly the same. So I was up, 4, 5 in the morning Detroit time and out for a run. So hoping that's the aim.
Hayden, actually, for those going out to Chicago, one bit of advice maybe you can give. So the 5K bobble hat run that most people are going out there. Let's be honest, we're all going to get a bobble hat.
We're all going to get a bobble hat.
Yeah, can't wait to wear my bobble hat. There's no bag drop.
No.
What did people do last year? Because that's quite interesting, given that not everyone's local. Was it a big thing, or is it just fine? You just kind of get on with it?
So what's even more interesting than that, this is the exact conversation I had with Louisa, my wife, last night, and we could not work out for the life of us what we've done. I've got pictures of us actually at the race with just our T-shirt on, and we've got pictures before we arrived. We've got a hoodie on. So, John, I haven't got a clue what we've done. I know there's definitely no bag drop. I just can't remember at all. I remember there's a picture of John Hillier. We sent it to Chris, and he was in a vest at like 6 o'clock in the morning. It was like -2. he was standing there. As soon as Chris saw it, he was like, I love John. He is hardcore. He's a proper cowboy. And he'd be having his vest on at like 6:30 in the morning. I honestly, the honest answer is, I cannot remember at all. And then we'll give it to Chris. Let Chris be the bag drop.
Oh, yeah.
I can't.
Oh, you're
He's
running
running, isn't he?
Yeah.
I can't confirm or deny. I mean, I'm embargo. Don't even know what you're talking about.
Bubble hat.
I mean, you better take us out. It's been an hour. These
Right.
people want to go home.
We've been here an hour. I can't believe we've got through that.
I can't even. Could I just say, actually, a massive apology to everybody who may be listening to this. I'll change the title when we put this out. I might just put as the title of the podcast. I might just write nonsense or Ben did a number 2 in the trees. I might even call it that actually, because it's totally relevant to the subject that we put in the thing. So apologies to everybody.
So to anyone that did tune in to listen to tips for winning the running in the winter, we will talk about that in a couple of weeks. So next week is a pre-record, which will go out on Friday night, usual time. So look out for that, which is going to be really interesting. Thank you again to our sponsors at Skechers. Please do head over to skechers.co.uk. And also, like we said at the beginning, Start Fitness, the code 40 runs. We will see you in a couple of weeks when we're back from the other side of the pond. Good luck to everyone that's out racing or running this weekend. Please be safe. Please look after yourselves. Anyone that's out in Chicago or Royal Parks, actually, next weekend, have a great run. And we will see you all soon. Good night.
Waiting on the Greyhound to Chicago. I've got all my bags packed up, ready to leave.